those things you would not see it in a book, not unlikely, right? But then a lot of communication now are online. Find things that are interesting to you that you would read in your native language or in English. Hi and welcome or welcome back to my channel. On this channel I'm talking language learning tips, slow productivity and creativity. I wanted to talk about the whole things that it's really not super popular in language learning, because I see a lot about like the apps, the textbooks, the best things, but we don't talk so much about reading in the language learning community. And unless you're really into the immersion language learning community, well, you would see a lot of input on reading, a lot of things on and data on reading. It's not so well described, to my opinion. First, I wanted to say, what do you consider as reading? Often when people think of reading in the scope of language learning, they are referring to reading a novel, like a blown adult novel. And we should not categorize reading in language learning as a language learner as a reading a novel. That's not reading. I mean, that's reading, but that's not only what is reading. Reading can be something simple as reading comment under all of the YouTube that you're watching in the target language, and those comments are in the target language, so the language you want to learn. And reading this every time, they will give you some reading experience, but also, okay, maybe there is a abbreviation that some language use or some country that speak that language use, and that you will get familiar with seeing them regularly. And if you also realize that people in the YouTube, they will just talk random things, and also not that complicated language in general, so it will be much more accessible. Reading can also be reading small things on internet, like article, fan fiction. Yes, I've read fiction in Spanish. It's great, especially when you've read everything in your native language and I want more. How you get more? You just read the thing in another language, a language that you've learned. That's amazing. So that's one of the things when it happened. And it's, yes, I know this language well enough to read a fan fiction. So what are the great things that you will get from integrating reading in your language learning journey? One of the things is that if you're learning non-Latin language, that's like Korean, Hindu, Arabic, Japanese, Chinese Mandarin, Chinese Cantonese, Thai, Russian, Ukrainian, Bulgarian, like if you're learning in general a language that is not using the same alphabet that you were using, so that's, you know, one of what I meant. A lot of the time it will help you reading small things, because you will get familiar with the words, seeing, I don't know, let's say in Japanese you're learning kanji. Oh, that's kanji, that's difficult. Okay, let's just imagine you're learning kanji and then you're learning the words how to say company. And this word, if you see this word in random places, then you will start to identify it visually. It's same for Korean. If all the time you see a word, it's spelled. For example, if you see 대학교 a few times, you would, every time the next time you see it in a text, in another context, you will get it, because you've seen it in a small little text. So the more you read, the more your eyes will be able to identify it. It's really important just for you to get used to the shapes of the language, like the shapes of the alphabet, right? Really think about that even more if you're learning those type of language. Another great thing is that if you're learning by reading, you would get a lot of things by context, and you will be able later on to get all of those collocation, right? Collocation are words that are put together to make that has specific meaning. I remember that I didn't pick up with reading, but I think you can do the same with reading. I have this thing of 마음에 들어 or 재미없어. Those are two things that, you know, you get from the context, right? And it's the same when sometimes I'm watching a video in Korean and I see certain words. I'm like, oh, I've seen that word. Or abbreviation 인정 with the O and the J. Those, the N and the J, those things you would not see it in a book, not unlikely, right? But then a lot of communication now are online. So if you're reading the comment, or if you're reading tweets, or if you're reading little notes on Substack in the native language that you're looking, really by doing that you will be able to understand what people online of this target language, how they talk, all of those things. You will be able to do that. So that's really beneficial, especially if you're not specifically planning to live in the country or working in that language, you're just doing it for fun. And be able to interact online with people of the target language is great if you start from the beginning to read what the people in this target language are saying, right? There were some little limitation to this. Number one, if you're learning a language that is really not so much spoken, for example Macedonian, I've learned Macedonian when I was living in Macedonia, but that it can be difficult. It can be also difficult if you're reading and you're still like a beginner and you stumble across something that looks like your language. Let's say like the target language. Let's say you're learning a Cyrillic language. There is multiple countries and language that use Cyrillic, so you have to make sure that you're identifying the right that might sound like weird, right? If you're learning like Korean, there is no other language that looks like Korean. But I am telling you, you should really be able, that's a challenge when you're reading online and at first you don't really know because certain words can be used by the different language, right? Other things, I think it's very difficult to find a perfect fit in terms of the level. Often you would have very dense text like journal articles. That's sometimes too hard, often too hard, even more when you're learning language like Japanese or Mandarin, because the kanji, hanja, those things require certain levels. In general, if you're reading online, YouTube comment, depending on the video, the level can be high or lower. And also the tweets, people are just talking like how they would talk. It can be difficult to find content that really align with your level, but once you get the hang of it, and you don't have to do it as a session, you can just do it casually. If you're doing immersion learning, as you watch a video in your target language, scroll through the comment after you've watched the video. However, it's a 10-minute video, watch it 10 minutes, you will get everything that you need. Now go through the reading, right? That's it's very simple to integrate. And also one thing is, it doesn't work for everyone. I don't mind reading the comment, but it's very difficult for me to go through a lot of long text unless I really put a session of I'm actually gonna read those. What I've realized is I love to read things that I would want to read in another language. That's very important. So when you pick that, like when you want to pick up on the habit of learning, those are my strategy. You pick, make sure you're learning the right, make sure you're seeing the right language for sure, but find things that are interesting to you that you would read in your native language or in English, things that basically you still want to know more about. I've talked about it in another video, how you can niche, and I will put the link, how you can use basically YouTube and online content to niche down on a specific topic and things that you already like and then you want to be proficient in. Dig in that. First watch that video, see how you can work it out, then now integrate the whole process. Add whenever you can add reading, add it on, and that would already help you. And it's very little, I would say it's very little habits that you just need to change or you just need to add, right? So that's for today's video. I hope that was useful, and I have a playlist on language learning. I will also link, and also the video that I've mentioned. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.